You've probably heard Lord Shiva called the Eternal One, right? The one without a beginning or an end. So how in the world can there be so many stories about his birth? That's the cosmic mystery we're going to dive into today. We'll explore all these different origin stories for a deity that many believe was never created at all.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The central paradox we're tackling. How can a being who is literally timeless have a beginning? It's a huge question, and it's been explored for centuries in all these sacred texts. And let me tell you, the answers they came up with are absolutely fascinating.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to look at a few really amazing accounts of Shiva's origins. We'll start with the whole idea of him being Swayambhu, self-born. Then, we'll jump into a totally different story from the Vishnu Purana. After that, we'll see how he was born as Rudra, the son of Brahma. And you're going to want to stick around for the secret we uncover from the Devi Purana. Finally, we'll wrap it all up by asking, who's really the greatest, and what's this all about Shiva being the very first guru?
Okay, so let's start with the most famous belief, the one that comes straight out of the Shiva Purana. And according to this text, Lord Shiva wasn't born. He didn't come from anywhere. He just is. He's a fundamental part of existence itself.
And the key word here, the really important one, is Swayambhu. It means self-created. So in this view, Shiva has no mother, no father. He exists completely outside the 5 elements, which means he's also beyond our whole concept of creation and destruction.
Now, the story that really drives this point home kicks off with a classic cosmic showdown. You've got Lord Brahma, the creator, and Lord Vishnu, the preserver. And they get into this massive argument about who's the top dog, who's the most powerful being in the entire universe.
So right in the middle of their argument, boom, this incredible, infinite pillar of fire just appears between them, and a voice booms out, challenging them. It says, "Whoever can find the end of this pillar is the greatest." So they take up the challenge. Brahma transforms into a bird and flies up trying to find the top. At the same time, Vishnu becomes a boar and starts digging like crazy, trying to find the bottom. But here's the thing. They search for ages, and neither of them can find an end. It just goes on forever. So they finally come back, totally humbled, and they get it. The power inside that endless pillar, which was of course Lord Shiva, was the supreme force. This pillar is just such a perfect symbol for that idea of Swayambhu, no beginning and no end.
But hold on, because the story does not end there, not by a long shot. Because another major text, the Vishnu Purana, comes along and offers a completely different take. And this, my friends, is where the plot really thickens.
So get this. According to the Vishnu Purana, Lord Shiva's origin is directly linked to Lord Vishnu. It actually says that Shiva was born from his brilliant, radiant light that came right out of Vishnu's forehead. So in this version, there's a really clear hierarchy, right? Vishnu is the source.
But wait a second. The Shiva Purana fires right back with a direct counter story. In that text, it claims that Lord Vishnu was born from some substance that Lord Shiva rubbed from his own knee. So, do you see what's happening? Each Purana seems to put its own central deity right at the top.
And this just lays out the central conflict so perfectly, doesn't it? On one hand, you have Shiva born from Vishnu, on the other, Vishnu born from Shiva. So what's going on? Well, the key thing to realize is that this isn't about finding one single true fact. It's about understanding why these stories are being told. Each Purana is dedicated to a specific deity, and it uses these amazing narratives to explore and celebrate the supreme nature of that god. It's like looking at the divine through a different lens each time. Now let's jump to our next story and see how this idea gets even more interesting.
All right, on to another super famous story. And this one really shows, again, how mythology uses different lenses to look at the divine. This time, Shiva's presented in a totally different way, as the son of the creator god Brahma. And funnily enough, this story also comes from the Vishnu Purana.
So here's how it goes. Brahma is trying to create the universe, but he needs some help. So he goes into this super intense meditation. And when he comes out of it, boom, there's a small child sitting on his lap. And this child is an incarnation of Shiva himself. But the kid is just crying and crying. And when Brahma asks him, "Hey, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" the child replies, "Because I don't have a name."
So Brahma thinks for a second and names him Rudra, which literally means the one who cries. Makes sense, right? But the child just keeps on crying. So Brahma keeps giving him more names, and it's not until it's given him 108 names in total that the child finally stops. And many of these names, like Mahadev and Pashupatinath, are some of the most sacred and revered titles for Shiva that we know today.
Okay, let's recap.
So far, we've got Shiva as self-born, we've got him born from Vishnu, and we've got him born from Brahma. It's a lot, right? But what if there was an explanation that could actually bring all of these ideas together? Well, the Srimad Devi Mahapurana offers exactly that. It completely reframes the entire cosmic family tree.
And this story kicks off with the ever-curious sage, Narada. He goes to his father, Brahma, and asks him a pretty deep question. He says, "Who created you? Who are your parents? And for that matter, who are Vishnu's parents and Shiva's parents?" And Brahma's answer, well, it pulls back the curtain on a whole different reality.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because in this version of the story, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who's also called Mahesh, are all brothers. And their mother? She's Devi Durga, who represents Prakriti, or primordial nature. And their father is Kal Sadashiv, who's basically the embodiment of time itself, a whole new family dynamic.
And this text doesn't stop there. It goes even deeper. It explains that from the 5 phases of Sadashiva came the 5 core elements. And when you combine those, what do you get? You get the sacred sound Om, the primordial vibration of the entire universe, and of course, the root mantra that's so closely connected to Shiva. Okay, we've just walked through 4 very different and often conflicting origin stories for Lord Shiva. So what does this all mean? How are we supposed to make sense of all this? Well, the real answer isn't in picking one story. It's about looking beyond a simple literal reading.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that these stories were never meant to be read like history textbooks. They're really beautiful philosophical allegories. Each Purana focuses on a different aspect of the divine, and it elevates a certain deity to make a deep philosophical point. So those contradictions we saw, they aren't mistakes. They're actually the whole point. They're there to show us that the divine is just too huge, too vast, to ever be squeezed into one single story.
Now, with all that said, let's shift gears a little and talk about what might just be Shiva's most profound identity. Because beyond all the arguments about his birth, there's one role he plays that completely transcends all of these creation myths.
And that role is the Adi Guru, the first guru, the original teacher. See, this identity isn't about how he was made, it's about what he makes. He creates knowledge, wisdom, the entire path to enlightenment. He's really seen as the original source, the wellspring, from which all these different spiritual traditions have flowed. In a way, he's the one who established that sacred bond between a teacher and a student, the guru and the disciple. And his first students? They weren't just anybody. They were the 7 great sages, the Saptarishis, and it was their job to take this incredible cosmic knowledge and spread it to the rest of the world.
So, we kinda end right back where we started, with a question. Maybe, just maybe, the fact that there are so many different birth stories isn't a contradiction at all. Maybe it's proof that any one single narrative is just way too small to capture something that's infinite. So why isn't one story enough? Well, maybe it's because the divine isn't a story meant to be told, but an infinite reality that's meant to be experienced.